I think we're at an important juncture in the history of this council and in the history of Georgetown. And the decision that we make today will either serve as evidence to the citizens of Georgetown that either we understand our responsibilities and will act in the best interest of the citizens and stakeholders, or we will forget our oath and vote in a reckless manner for a disastrous contract which is a burden, which exploits our people, and which violates many of the principles of good governance. I just want to refresh you with some of the facts of this contract, and we're talking about a contract here. On May 13, 2016, about 1 month after we were elected as councillors, this contract was signed. It was not brought before this council for any deliberation or approval, and it showed a total lack of respect for the new councillors. There were no consultations. This matter has been discussed at length, but it needs to be rehashed again. Any contract of this sort and of this magnitude, there should have been public consultations to get a public buy-in, to get their input, and it was not done. There was no transparency. Councillor Duncan alluded to the fact previously that we were simply informed that this contract was signed. And the mayor at that point had said that she deliberately kept the contract from the council because of some previous experience. The contract was only revealed after immense pressure from councillors and the public at large and the government's intervention. And that should not have happened with a contract as massive as this one. Feasibilities and impact studies are conducted so that you will find out all the issues that you can encounter in any major contract. That way those issues are solved beforehand, before you attempt to sign a contract or before you attempt implementation. But there were none of those done. And there was no due diligence done on smart city solutions. I mean, you're getting into over $2 billion contract, but you really don't know about this company. You don't know about their resources, their source of financing, whether they have any expertise in this project, and what references would have been provided as to whether they completed projects of a similar nature previously, and whether they had done it in a satisfactory manner. None of those were presented to this council. In addition, it was also mentioned that the contract was not tendered, that anything over $250,000 has to be tendered, and it was not tendered. And that is a violation of the procurement laws of this country. And the Ministry of Finance, I like their report that the Ministry of Finance did. I had mentioned at a previous meeting that if I were going to get into an investment, I would want a report like the one that the Ministry of Finance put forward there. And they identified that in the contract itself, this was a monopoly. You were giving exclusive rights to smart city solutions for metered parking and garage parking. In addition, you were extending policing powers to them, and you created a backdoor for them to bring additional business through, thereby escaping the government's revenue dragnet. The contract that I just described is a rotten contract, and you cannot fix rotten, you cannot polish rotten. You have to get rid of it. Those of you who are following the news, you would have read of one of the major commentators. He called this the worst contract in the history of Guyana. And I tend to agree with him. Because no one in their right minds would give away this much for so little. When the major asset, the major input that you have in this investment is the land, worth billions of dollars. So this contract is not a good contract, and it must be revoked. The people who were at the helm of this, the people who negotiated this contract, has no transportation expertise. They are not financial experts, yet they kept the central government and those people who would have had those expertise out of the table. They could have called the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, the Ministry of Business, the Ministry of Communities, and any other experts in to assist them to assess this program, but they did not. In addition, the bylaws enacted had some pretty strange clauses in there. One of them being that the council and SCS would not be responsible for damages to your vehicle. I mean, that's a violation of the Constitution, your constitutional rights. But yet that made it into that bylaws. I have to congratulate the committee that did the investigation. I went through. They did not have conclusive recommendations, but they opened up the floor for possibilities. But as one councillor pointed out, these were things that we already knew. You know, and the fact that they were doing consultations at this point is putting the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse. This should have been done beforehand. And it was also revealed that the Smart City Solutions refused to give important financial information to this duly authorized body. But I think whether they produced the necessary information or not would be inconsequential to what must happen here today. Now, I do support a comprehensive transportation management plan for Georgetown, where parking meters can be part of that process, and where we can have the involvement of citizens and other stakeholders, because we do need to control traffic and congestion. And you may be aware that the Ministry of Public Infrastructure had actually embarked on such a program last year through an IDB, Inter-American Development Bank funded study that looked at sustainable urban transportation for the municipalities. And specifically, they looked at mobility in and around Georgetown and the applicability of parking meters. We should have gone that route. We should have spoken to these people who have experts in the field. There was also a report done in 2007, I think, regarding transportation. Transportation in any city is not the business of simply that city. This is a national plan. This is the central government's involvement. And the council should have saw fit to consult with the experts. And the experts in this field are personnel of the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. Now, we are a council of elected councillors. We are a policy-making body here. A council that is governed by laws. We have heard it quoted. And a council that must follow those laws in every action that we take. The parking meter contract violated many of those laws and the principles and procedures that covers good governance, accountability, and also transparency. The minutes included in the report that the committee did quoted the Minister of Communities as stating that he does not see the council being bound exclusively to the original contract, and councillors can start as though they have inherited nothing and start from scratch. It is also instructive to refer to the minutes from the meeting that the committee had with the Attorney General, who stated, she wanted me to call it, but the Honorable Mr. Basil Williams, Minister of Communities. Yes. Senior Counsel. And what he stated also is that central government has the authority, the ability, the capability of frustrating this contract. Now, ladies and gentlemen, councillors all, we understand what the word frustrate legally means. I don't have to go into detail of what it means. The people, yes, it's in the report. You read it. Yes. If the council is bound by the contract, or they feel they're bound by the contract, even in my personal opinion, it is an illegal contract. If they feel that they're bound by the contract, central government has offered a way out of this contract. For all the other reasons that were pointed out by other councillors, that the company that we're dealing with has taken advantage of this city, and the Ministry of Finance report did state that they took advantage of the lack of business acumen on the part of the people in the council, the people who negotiated this agreement. We have to look at the way forward, and the way forward, we should ask ourselves seriously as elected councillors, Are we really looking out for the interests of the people of Georgetown? Is this good for the people of Georgetown? Is this the best that we can do? I doubt it. This is not the best we can do. This contract is an illegal, it's an unproductive contract, and it violates every single thing that you can think about good business procedures. We must scrap this contract. I would go with option B, that this contract must be scrapped. We should discontinue immediately. The only outcome today, I would say to you, is an appeal to your sense of duty, your sense of patriotism, and to your personal conscience. When you're making a decision and voting on this contract, to vote it down. We don't need this. We can go to another contract. If you open this up to competition, they're saying these were the people who are going to come here and we don't have to put any money. If you open this up to the public, you will have a lot of investors coming in, overseas investors and local investors. I much prefer we keep the money and the business right here locally. This contract doesn't do justice to the council and it doesn't do justice to our people. I say scrap it and scrap it now. Thank you.